pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
This is a regular meeting of the Hendry County Board of County Commissioners being held on Tuesday, February 9th, 2021 at 5 p.m. at the Montura Clubhouse in Coolison, Florida. In attendance are Chairman Mitchell Wills, Vice Chair Emma Byrd, Commissioner Darrell Harris, Commissioner Raymond Glacis, Commissioner Carson Turner, County Administrator Jennifer Davis, County Attorney Mark Lapp, Clerk Kimberly Barano.
Thank you, ma'am. First thing tonight is a consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion for that.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have nothing under awards and appearances tonight, public hearings. So we're going to go all the way down to staff reports. County Attorney, Mr. Lapp.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this property was declared surplus by use a couple months ago, and you authorized direct negotiations with a person who was interested, Mr. Eddie Red. And we advertised it, made it available for other people who may want to participate. One said he did want to, but then didn't submit an offer. Mr. Red submitted his offer, $5,500. It's about $2,000 below property appraiser's appraised value, but Ms. Davis and I felt like
Can I answer?
Yes, absolutely.
So, señor, lo que tiene que entender que este es un meeting del comisionado del condado, no es una meeting de Central County. Aquí no se, ellos no traen gente que ya se van a transferir en español. So he's saying that he's not understanding anything that's being said. Y a este momento no están hablando nada que le pertenece a Montura. A este momento estamos empezando y terminando el meeting del condado y después de eso vamos a dejar a la gente de Montura hablar, pero no vamos a tener a alguien que va a poder hablar español.
La mayoría de los que estamos aquí no hablamos inglés.
Well, hell, I'm Commissioner, Mr. Chair. I mean, the gist is we're here.
Right.
If we want to pick it apart, we can. I apologize for us not having a translator. I will tell you, in the 67 counties throughout the state, I don't know if anyone has. Maybe Miami-Dade or some of those do.
Excuse me, do you guys like, I speak English and Spanish? I don't have to translate everything that you guys said to them. I don't know if that's going to be okay with you guys?
Mr. Chair, I mean, we can, but I'm going to be honest. The pace of the meeting and what we're trying to get across, and the fact that we came here tonight, I'm not going to ask everyone to hold up their night for us to be able to translate word by word. If that's offensive to people, I'm sorry. I'm a very offensive person from time to time, and maybe the commission will outvote me on that. But I want to put that out there for right now. Mr. Chair, I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, I understand, and we have a language barrier, and we understand that, but in the situation we're in, we did bring the meeting to the public, and we're trying to do the best we can with that. So I'm kind of along the same lines as Commissioner Turner. I just want to try to go and get through the meeting. At the conclusion of the meeting, if there is a topic or something they would like to discuss, maybe we can stop back there for a few moments and address that.
I guess that's what they want. I guess that's exactly what happened.
Mr. Chair, I would also
Okay.
say, I mean, if any constituent at any time has an issue, be it Haitian Creole, Spanish, Deutsch, you name it. Obviously, we have the two main dialects here in Florida, but we're going to make those resources available. We have those people on staff, and I will tell you, since I've been elected in 2008, I've never heard that being an issue that someone said they could not get their message across because there was a language barrier.
You guys should recognize and try to get into consideration that you still have a lot of people living in Ventura that actually they're not speaking English and they have rights as the American citizens to know exactly what you guys have discussed.
100% agreed, and their rights are not being violated. The comments are being made. So.
One at a time. One at a time. One person at a time speak so he can address that.
It's not okay.
Mr. Chair, where are we at?
Rolly's
Where are we at
gonna-
in the meeting, and
Rolly's going to, the chair, one of the board of Central County is going to address them.
we were talking about,
La reunión que vinieron Centro County con una invitación que le hicimos a nosotros a ellos, una reunión que nosotros le invitamos a ellos para que ellos vengan a montura, a la misma vez para que ellos vean, para que ellos manejen en montura, que vean también lo que es montura, una residencia en montura. Esta reunión es una reunión de ellos, de Hendry County, y nosotros les invitamos aquí para que vengan a ver la que nos trata, donde nosotros vivimos también, para que ellos sepan que nosotros también existimos, ¿ok? Pero ¿qué pasa? Que esto no es una reunión de animales, no es una reunión de cosas que va a pasar en un futuro, es la reunión regular de ellos. En las 67 counties que tienen ellos no usan un translator, no hablan español. So, Facebook y el video que se va a subir, ¿ok? Lo pueden hacer un translation, trasladarlo al video. Pueden trasladar el video para que ustedes puedan ver el video, lo que hay. Si ustedes vinieron a ver esto en español, buenas tardes. Pero volvemos a repetir. Entiende este problema. Como yo le digo, yo soy la persona bien abierta y yo hablo con ustedes, y digo con ustedes con todas las cosas. Si es así, yo solo prometí a ustedes que lo iba a hacer. So,
He's addressing what Carson spoke about.
bienvenido quedarse para escuchar.
He's one of the board members of Central County. I'm trying to find out whether or not
Pero
they have.
tiene la facilidad de un futuro poder verlo. Gracias por venir, lo que pudieron venir. Gracias. Santana, y esto no es de animal. Esto no es de animal. Esto no es de animal. Esto es de Hendry County. No de Hendry County. ¿Ok? Ellos van a dar información y se va a poner en Facebook para ver los animales y todo. ¿Ok? En este momento, esta no es la reunión de Centro County de nosotros. ¿Ok? ¿Alguna pregunta?
¿No se puede hacerle pregunta a ellos sobre ese tema?
Ellos dijeron que al final de la reunión de ellos pueden hacerle cualquier pregunta.
Margaret,
Si no un translator, se puede parar.
when's the land use study? When is it? 226?
All right, hold on.
What date?
The way this is going to work, if you want to speak, we need you to come up and state your name, please, for the record, that way they can hear you, please.
My name is Juan Carlos Santana. I'm a supervisor of Central County Water District.
Yes, sir.
Seat number 3.
The mic's over there.
No,
The
yes, sir.
microphone is right over
Just
there.
grab that microphone, it's just so they can get you on the record. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
thank you very much, sir.
I heard a lot of good things about you.
Thank you, sir.
All of you.
Gracias.
All right, Mr. Lapp, if you would continue, please.
Yes, so,
Can I speak now? Or you?
And by the way, I want to thank you all for coming out here today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for taking time for your families as well. Thank you for being out here. Thank you for your time.
Grab the microphone.
Microphone.
Give him a few minutes.
It's going to be long-winded.
With all respect to you, sir, I mean, all of you, commissioners, thank you for coming to Montclair Rancho State. The majority of the people here, they don't speak English. So we should have a translator in order for them to understand what you're saying. If not, they don't know what you're saying. It's simple. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can
I understand that. Actually, I have a language barrier in the church. I'm a pastor, and we have the same issues. There are no real-time translators right now, and the only way to do that would have someone to stand and translate. To be more prepared in the future, we may be able to do something where we have literature in Spanish, so they'll know exactly what we're speaking of. But at this time, we don't have that tonight, and we do have business we need to conduct. So we apologize for the inconvenience, but we have the business we do need to conduct.
Mr. Chair, can I address some as well? One, I want you to keep this in mind. You say you're a board member of Central County, correct? And you're a board member of Central County, is that correct?
Yes,
So last week, do you remember when I came and spoke?
yes, sir.
Did you guys have a translator there?
Last week.
Yeah. Remember when I spoke here?
You know what? Age is good.
Okay, no problem. So what everyone needs to understand is today's meeting is a Hendry County Board of County Commissioners meeting to discuss county business. At the end, we'll have public comment, and I'm sure many of the people in this room are here to talk about animals, but there's no translator. at the land use study meeting that will be February the 20th, there will be a translator. Margaret's had that set up every meeting except the one that the lady wasn't able to attend. But please understand, like Commissioner Turner said, 67 counties don't provide translator for every language barrier that there is, and we can't provide one. But keep this in mind, your constituent for your board that meets here or at Central County's office is not provided a translator.
No, but
Please.
listen, but when we need to speak to them in Spanish, we speak to them in Spanish. We let them know what's going on, otherwise, they don't want to know.
Okay, well,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
thank you. Continue, Mr. Lapp.
Yes, so,
Mark, the gist is you have someone who's made an offer for $5,500 on a property that's valued $2,000 more than that property, correct?
than that, correct?
Are y'all going to accept that offer, or
We're
do you want to
recommend-
hold off on this,
we're
in this
rec-
market?
we're
What's our
recommend-
recommendation?
We're recommending that you accept that. It's the next door neighbor. He's already been taking care of it. He's-
Okay.
We think, well, that's the
Commi-
point. Get
Do
somebody
we
who'll
have a
take care of
motion on
it.
that?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask Commissioner Byrd if she thinks from market and where we're at and where that's located, do we want to hold off and sell it, or do we want to go with staff's recommendation and pull the trigger?
No, I don't want to hold off and sell it.
Then you want a
I
motion?
want to sell it now.
Okay.
This gentleman been taking care of the
I make a
property
motion
for
to
some
approve
time.
the recommendation from staff that we sell it at $5,500.
I second it.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Byrd. Is there any
And-
further discussion?
And just to be clear, I stated it in the memo, but just to reiterate, there are code enforcement liens from the county on there, but, it doesn't make sense to require this owner to pay those, or this buyer to pay those, so we're going to be waiving those.
What's the total amount of the code enforcement lien?
Well, that were incurred on this very property, $4,403, and then the preceding owner also committed a lot of violations on other properties and got liens on those properties, but the liens carry over and affect all the properties, and I haven't added up all that math. Suffice it to say, it's the property's upside down with liens, but it's the prior owner who did the bad deed, and so to me, it just doesn't, how can we hold that against a buyer who's coming in who just wants to start with a clean slate?
So they're not going to pay the lien?
Who's they? The buyer? Well,
The seller?
we're the seller.
So we're the seller, so we're stuck with it.
Well, we're the holder of the lien, so we can waive the liens. If you want to, you could designate that the sale proceeds be put back into the code enforcement budget if you wanted to partially pay yourself back for the out-of-pocket. You could say that.
Then it go to 9,000.
No, sir. I think what he's saying is that we would take the $5,500 and push it towards the $4,300 of liens that are towards the county. Obviously, that's not going to do anything with the previous owner's issues.
And it puts it back on the tax roll.
It's never not been on the tax rolls. I don't know why we say that all the time. It's taxes are not being paid, or they are, and liens obviously aren't being paid. So, it's going to go back into someone else's ownership with a forgiveness that's pretty great. And I think, this is a prime example. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a prime example of us. I don't know how we've cleaned up our code enforcement process with the foreclosure, but, this would have been one of those ones that came into county ownership, probably free and clear, a bit more aggressively or a bit more soon, had we gotten aggressive with it and forced this person to pay. But I'll get off that soapbox right now because I know it has no traction. So, Mr. Chair, we're going to sell it, and do you think we should push it back to code enforcement? Is that what we should do with that $5,500?
I think we should.
I believe if we're inadequate in that area, so I believe we should.
Okay. I'll make that as part of the motion then.
Okay, we have the motion and the second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Assemblage.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Margaret Devlin for the record. This next agenda item,
You may have to walk over here away from that speaker, Miss.
okay. So this next agenda item is an amendment to the facility use policy that also includes the facility use application and facility use rules. The primary amendments are highlighted under the analysis section. I will go through them. We have a total of 6 major amendments. And the first one is that we're clarifying that this policy does not apply to those facilities that are overseen by the Hendry LaBelle Recreation Board. The next item is section 121 of the policy is to revise the definition of user to require individual users to be a resident of Hendry County, and that a for-profit corporation, not-for-profit corporation, a partnership, and unincorporated organization must have a physical office in Hendry County or has a permanent mailing address in Hendry County, and that users must be at least 18 years old. The next item is section 1.3.2. We're adding the restrictions to include smokeless tobacco to be prohibited where youth organizations and league activities occur. The next item is section 1.3.9, is to correct the name of the Harlem Civic Center to the Harlem Civic and Cultural Center. Number 5 is section 2.9(1)D is to clarify that repass do not require a fee, insurance, or deposits.
Mr. Chair, what does repass mean?
After somebody passed, they have
Yeah.
his feeding. But I think that, Ms. Margaret, I believe we did charge deposit for, in case they didn't clean up. There was a fee there of $100.
It's a feeding after a funeral. A feeding after a funeral, yeah. And
There
so-
was a deposit made on that.
So, if I may, we've been a little inconsistent because we had this policy done before, and then we were trying to make it better because maybe there were some things in there that didn't make sense. So we were proposing to do it without the deposit, but if you want to change that, we can do that.
I really don't have a problem
Okay.
with, in the future, if that problem occurred, because it occurred, and that was the purpose of just making a deposit.
Right. Well, if there's an issue, then they wouldn't be able,
Because I know
to do it
there's
again.
hardship already there. so
Right.
I'm
So,
okay.
Ms. Byrd, or what you're saying is that we would require a family to put a deposit down, and in the event they don't come back in and clean up, we would keep said deposit.
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
In all buildings that way?
Yeah, we were waiving it in certain circumstances because sometimes what would happen is like a non-for-profit, meaning a church is a non-for-profit, and they would rent it, and then sometimes it's a person that rents it, and if it was a non-for-profit, then we didn't charge. And so we were having some inconsistencies, so we were trying to just streamline it, but,
Are they all the same, or who sets the price?
well, this would be all the same.
Okay.
However, whichever way you decide it, it'll be all the same.
But I understand, and I understand why.
Right.
So I'm good with
Does
it. I just wanted to
$100
bring to your attention that
Okay.
that's what we
Okay.
did in the past.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely needed to cover expenses for sure.
So, do you want to require the deposit?
Let's see how it works without it, because it was some hardship between the church and then someone that wasn't in the church, if the church wasn't the one that chose to rent it. So let's see how it works out. We can always bring it back if we need to.
If we have an issue, we'll bring it back.
Mr. Chair, I don't know, I'm sure you all reviewed this. I didn't have any other questions or comments with any of the other bullet points. I don't feel like making Ms. English go through all of this.
I did have one on the Harlem Civic Center, the addition at the, what page is it? Attachment 3, it was to 2 a.m., not 12. And I revised it, just revised that, just that one thing.
You want it to be concluded by 2 a.m.?
They usually be out by 2 a.m. They normally leave between 12 and 12:30, but that gives them time to clean up. They have to be out the building, clean and everything by then. We revised it a few years ago, and I think this was just an oversight.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Just for an
So you're
adult.
saying that it will be concluded by 2 a.m.?
Right, just an
Okay.
adult. right.
Just for the Harlem Civic Center is what, we had
Anyway,
made
the
this exception
event
just for
would be
that
over at
facility.
12?
The event normally be over like 12, but that gives them time to clean up and be out.
Okay.
We haven't had that used that much for that time, but it's open because it's an adult party.
Well, excuse me, this is Margaret. If you're saying that we're going to require them to have the event over by midnight and out of there by 2, then we need to state that in this policy, because that's not clear, it's not written that way.
Okay.
And if it's not stipulated, it will not take place.
Correct.
So do we just need to make it where it doesn't matter what time they're just out by 2, no later than 2?
Now, if that's your cutoff, then it should be cleaned up and out by 2.
They have to, and I believe, I'm not sure if that's what state unless, but it was, they had to be cleaned up and out by 2. They can't be cleaning up at 2, they have to be out the building and closed down by 2.
Then I would just, correct me if I'm wrong, I would just say events to be concluded by 2 a.m. That means it's done.
Just the wording, Mr. Margaret?
I think that makes it kind of gray. I think it needs to be said, you got to be out by 2. Because concluded, Carson, they might think that the dancing or whatever's got to be done by 2, and then they got time to clean up.
The staff goes over individually one by one, and it's gonna be written, because she have a checklist now, and it states that, that they have to be out. So most of the time when Jessica does it, it's on the checklist. We did a checklist.
They cannot hear you in the back.
Oh,
Is there anybody there to make sure they're through at 12?
yes, there are staff there. There's staff there the whole time.
I guess I have a different way of looking at it. I don't care if they, I mean, what time does Tiki close? What time does Brenda's close? What time does Don's Steakhouse close? You know, I don't know what we're trying to do here. What's the goal that we're trying to do? If somebody wants to party until 6 in the morning, they paid for it, that's their prerogative. Let me know why that's wrong. And is the county supposed to be the police towards adults? I'm asking all these questions just to
It's a
be,
county facility, so
okay?
they
So
should.
we're gonna let them drink till midnight and not till 2, or we're gonna let them drink till 2 and not till midnight? I don't-
That's a whole new different story. You asking 2 questions in one. There is a policy for the drinking, so you asking more questions, more than one question for an answer.
So the facilities are close to residential areas, and
Okay.
so I think that's the point, to be respectful of time, and so it doesn't last all night long, and it's not loud and keeping people awake in nearby homes. And so what had been done via some board discussion some years back was that we had these deadlines by midnight, and some different areas, but we made an exception for Harlem Civic Center. It was my understanding they had to be out by 2, so if they had to close down by 1, if they needed an hour, they'd be closed, they would finish their event by 1, they'd be out by 2, or if they needed 2 hours, they would be done by midnight to be able to be out by 2. I guess it could vary depending on what kind of event they're having, but that was my recollection of the discussion before and what we were.
We haven't had that. We haven't had a problem.
No.
No, the whole thing is, if you stay there all hours of the night, that's going to be pressure on law enforcement, it's going to be pressure on your supervisors, and there's no way they're going to clean that building that night. And you're going to have buildings destroyed. Nothing good happens after 2 o'clock, I hate to tell you that. Been there many years. After 2 o'clock, things go downhill quick. They need to be going home by 2 o'clock, is my opinion. There's parties that take place now, they're not permitted, but they're going on. We've got all kind of trouble throughout the county with noise, and I don't think we need to add insult and injury by allowing our buildings to be open that late. Just my opinion. I think 2 o'clock, you need to be out there going home.
I agree.
And Commissioners, there's some additional corrections that I'd like to highlight.
Well, let's finish this. Let's finish this up, because I want to be clear what we're doing with the wording. So Harlem, the policy is not occupied later than 2 a.m.
Right.
And then this wording, it says, and is not occupied later than 12 a.m. Well, if we go on the rules, facility rules later for each facility, Felda's was established at 10 p.m.
Yes.
So it's kind of disjointed. So I think instead of trying to set forth every time here in 272, we could say buildings are not to be occupied later than times established in the facility use rules. And we go over there. And then in the facility use rules, it says Harlem Civic Center, 2 a.m., Pioneer, midnight, Felda, 10, et cetera. Set forth every one of the times there. And from what I'm hearing from you all, you want it to be midnight everywhere except Harlem Civic Center, 2 a.m., and Felda Civic Center, 10 p.m. Is that,
Well, I think you need to be across the board. There's no reason that folks in Felder should not have the same rights they do anywhere else or Pioneer. I believe if we're going to set a policy for facilities, that policy needs to meet all the facilities, is my opinion on that.
I
That
agree
way,
with
it's
that.
not, you're not wondering if I'm here, if I'm there. I mean, the sheriff's department don't have to run around trying to figure out what time is what. They know county policy. If it says 12 o'clock, you're closed, 2 o'clock, you're out. That's all of our buildings, and it kind of covers everything. So that's what I feel there.
you got that, or?
Well, here's what you just said is that you're suggesting that all of the facilities be allowed to be open until midnight, or are you talking about midnight and then the Harlem Civic and Cultural Center be allowed to be open until 2 o'clock?
No, we're saying whatever we set this at, that pertains to all county facilities is what we're saying.
Okay.
That's the reason we want to change it, so one facility's not one thing, one's not another. I can tell you, we can go to Felda and they'll tell you they don't want a drinking party down there at all.
Ever.
And it just happens ever, period.
Pioneer's
But
the
it
same.
happens continuously. We have folks come in from Mockley, they rent it under someone's name in the county, and the next morning, there's supposed to be no drinking in the facility, but next morning, there's beer bottles all over the parking lot. There's bags and bags of garbage out front, so they'll tell you down there, we don't want it at all. And I've sat there in the meetings, and I agree with them. It's right there in the residential area, right next door to the church. You're in the church playground with it, so we've got to be uniform, I believe. Pioneers, same situation. They're out in the middle of nowhere. They don't want a drinking party, period, either.
That's correct.
So we got to be mindful of who the folks are that live around those buildings.
Well, the one, as far as the Civic Center goes, that's what they asked for, and they're taxpayers, and I tried to accommodate as close. Do I party? No, but they have a right to be able to do that, long as it's at a decent hour. And so if they out of there by 2 o'clock, Pioneer might not want it. It depends on the residents. Montour might not want it, but it depends on the residents also. So am I a partier? No. Do I drink? No. But if we're going to use the facility, and we just need to put stipulation on it. I have not had a problem for the last 5 years with the stipulation of being out at 2. The workers make sure they're out at 2. So I haven't foreseen a problem. I don't foresee a problem with the Howard Civic Center. I can't speak for Pioneer, and I can't speak for Felton.
Does anybody check on the Felder?
After every event, whether they clean or not, county staff goes in. I have been there myself many times. There's stipulations. Do not put staples in the walls. Do not attach anything to the ceiling. I went in and there's thousands of staples in the walls. We got to repaint buildings because of staples everywhere. There's ribbon hanging from the ceiling. A birthday party, and there's stuff hanging off from the ceiling, and there's the stuff you find in there, in all of our facilities, was not a birthday party. And that's just, there's a lot of things, and I agree, Ms. Bird, I'm not a drinker neither. I used to love to party. I'd party all night long. But the fact was, I wasn't disturbing anyone else, and it wasn't public property, it was private property. So that's the situation there. This is public property, and I get it, they pay taxes, I pay taxes. But honestly, I don't think, what does it cost to rent the John Boy?
I think it's 1,500, but
What does it cost to rent the Bell Civic Center?
It's 15, and then if there's alcohol, they got to hire police officers or security.
LaBelle Civic Center is the same thing. Do you guys, do you rent the hall here? What is your charge on the hall?
What are we charging here monthly, for everybody we charge here? What do you charge for the parties here? $25.
That's a deal.
You guys are going in the hole.
Forget that question.
Not want to look at that.
At what time do we have to close? At what time do we close?
Regular working hours is $25, plus $75 deposit that we have to give back. After hours, they have to pay the overtime for the employee, plus the $25.
What's your cap? What's your cap, midnight?
11.
11, thank you.
There you go. Again, with the upkeep, you got to clean the floors. You got to do these floors. The floors in these civic centers get cleaned more than the courthouse. I'm telling you that firsthand. I'm not guessing. I'm not thinking. I'm telling you firsthand. They get cleaned the floors more than in the courthouse. Period. We really need to evaluate what we're charging for these buildings because of the use. Absolutely. So if you're going in the house like a boat, you can have a boat and throw money in it. It's going in the water, but. Same thing here. I want them to be able to use the properties, but they want them to take care of it.
Mr. Chair, after the situation changed and where they couldn't nail it, put anything on the wall, we have not had that problem. The workers make sure that, the staff make sure they go over checklists. So we have not had that problem. So I don't have nails on the wall or thumbtacks on the wall. I don't have anything hanging from the ceiling, and they make sure they clean the building before they leave.
Well, that's good. That's always been policy, just for the record. That's always been policy. That didn't just start that.
Yeah, right. But I'm
So
saying.
if they've stopped it, that's amazing. That's good. I'm just giving you my opinion.
We
There's
stopped
five
as
of
a
us.
commissioner. We did that. We changed the bylaws for them not to put staples on the wall, not to hang.
You couldn't
And
never.
Well, we don't have that problem.
You did.
We did, but when we did, you get the right workers, the ones that are going to do their job, then you don't have that problem.
Okay.
So we don't have that problem.
Here we are. We got a decision to make. Go ahead, Ms. Emmons, if you have something else.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that whether we were looking at midnight for all of the facilities, or are you looking to provide 2 a.m. to allow the Harlem Civic and Cultural Center?
Mr. Chair, I think Pioneer is midnight right now, correct? Yeah, I would like to leave Pioneer alone. I've had a handful of meetings with them. They seem to be good with that. They've also been adamant about they do not want alcohol out there. And so, you know, the verbiage that you have here, I'm good with. And if Commissioner Byrd says that Harlem needs to, has been and needs to stay at 2 a.m., then by all means, let's pull the trigger. I do want to be careful. I don't have any wood to knock on, but, you know, obviously we're all intelligent and understand that if we wanted to create a liability issue, we would do nothing, right? We could do that all day long. So I just would ask that we make sure they're having their insurance carriers, and, you know, the liability is spread amongst, not just on the back of the county in its entirety on these things.
What time is Pioneer?
So in other words, we're not giving the keys out to the facility until we have a certificate of insurance.
I believe that's required.
City of Closen wouldn't give me a key to John Boy for Friday night until I gave him a certificate.
Yes, sir.
It's the same thing with the county.
Well, and with that being said, Commissioner Turner, I agree. I don't want to change Felda. If it's 10 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock.
Well, it's not 10 o'clock now, right?
No.
It's midnight now.
It's
and
midnight
proposed.
now.
If it's midnight, then it stays there. I don't want to change it.
Yep.
They
So I
don't
would-
want it there, so.
I would make a motion to adopt the amended facility use policy, facility use application, and facility use rules with the agreed upon language, and with staff moving forward with keeping Felda the same so that they match Pioneer. And then as it pertains to the Harlem Civic Center, going to the number that's presented at 2 a.m. and leaving it alone. Mark, Jennifer, what else do we need to tweak?
Well, 2.72 in
Yes.
the policy, it sounds like where you want to end up is just to not do the strike. In other words, go back to the wording that's there, which it's midnight everywhere except Harlem Civic Center, it's 2 a.m.
Yes. That's essentially it. Yes, sir. And I mean, I don't think that's going to make Felda upset. They're, you know what I mean? And if they are, then guess what? We'll tweak it again, and we'll pull it back to 10 p.m. if they flip out and lose it on.
If it's midnight now, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
We won't change it.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a motion. We have a second?
Second it.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Byrd. Is there any further discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We got a walk-on from Mr. Parker.
Yes, sir. Chairman Shane Parker for the record, Hendry County Public Works Director. I have LaBelle Airport grant agreement for the extension of taxiway B south at LaBelle Airport, along with a resolution seeking board approval of that.
I make a motion to approve the resolution and the taxi agreement for the required items at the LaBelle Airport.
I second it.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Shane, when will that begin and commence and be done, you think?
Well, with this grant agreement getting approved today, we should be able to start design next week, because you've already approved the design STA with AECom, but we couldn't start the design until the DOT funding agreement was executed. And the intent would be to solicit an invitation to bid for construction in May. We'll have the bid results, bring it back to you. You would accept those contingent upon FAA funding. Contingent upon FAA funding, and then we'd go out, I would estimate the time for construction would be October of this year, maybe November.
Good deal.
Hey, Carl, do you have an EQ on that? pull 100 hertz down, please.
I have an addition.
Go ahead.
I had an addition.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
You were emailed the a new contract from FDAX for the Dallas Townsend Center that was emailed to you, and I ask for your consideration for approval.
Could you just touch the highlights of it, please?
Sure. So this has been, I think, since 2015, we've had this grant, and staff met last week, I believe it was, Shane, right? And we went through, because originally it was about $450, and we only got a little over $200. And so we didn't have enough money to finish the grant, and so we bid it out twice. We are going to bid it out a third time. We're going to bid it out with the roof that needs to be redone that we already had scheduled to do with the credit line, in hopes to be able to seek some efficiency there and some cost saving. We've discussed being fairly aggressive with our local contractors and making sure they're aware and having a pre-bid meeting and getting everybody to the table locally so we can get this project done accordingly. FDAX has been very gracious, and in their communication, they don't want to see us lose this money. And so we had already extended all of our extensions, basically, so they have basically written us a new contract to be able to finish this project. And the scope has been reduced. From the FDAX perspective, we feel like we're going to be able to exceed that with those same dollars, so that's not an issue, and move forward.
So you might not have extra money?
Well, we're going to get the bids in, we're going to rebid it, and we're hoping that if we do, it won't be as much as what we've been talking about.
Is the kitchen involved in that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we need a motion on this.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Turner. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that's going to bring us to the old business.
Yes, I'd like to highlight a couple items, and then, if I may, and then if you have any other additional questions, I can try to answer best I can, or other staff members. At the last meeting, we had a Hendry Glades joint meeting, as you're aware. We had quite a bit of discussion about the North LaBelle Public Safety Station. Public safety staff immediately met with Glades County Public Safety staff. They had a great discussion, and internally we talked, and we came up with a proposal, if you will, internally. Ms. Stafford is to meet with Glades County staff this week and give them our proposal from an operational perspective, as I had referenced at the last meeting, as far as how we might operate the station, if you will, from an EMS vehicle and then a fire vehicle, and how that might work from a funding perspective. There's a lot of things to consider when you're talking about fire MSBU's and the benefit and what you can and cannot use those dollars for when we're crossing county lines, and they're not all Hendry County residents. So we feel like we've come up with something that would work potentially and be more efficient for both Hendry and Glades. Initially, Amy did share with me, she's kind of ran it by them, and it was received very well. So I'm excited to hopefully be able to bring something back to you at the next board meeting that's a little bit more formal and detailed of what that might look like, and we're making great progress there. The second item I wanted to just bring up.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
What about location?
So the location that was discussed was at the existing location that they have right now, that we visited. You and I went and rode out there. And so that's the location that we are discussing to put the facility.
The other day I talked to them, they were thinking lights would get on land right next to the trailer park.
Yes, sir.
And then that would, all you'd have to do is go right into Hendry County.
Right, and that was discussed at the last meeting, and I think that still is potentially a possibility, but I think just through the conversation at the joint meeting, everyone was leaning towards putting it at the existing location. Is that
Did we,
correct? Is that your?
I felt that.
Okay.
Did we get the agreement drawn up that we needed so we wouldn't have to worry about crossing back and forth? We wouldn't be a delay in service?
Non-mutual aid, an instant
Right.
something, I can't remember what the
Right.
verbiage was.
Did we move forward on that?
So we haven't drafted anything as of, no.
We gotta
I
know
mean,
what, who's going
Yeah,
where.
I mean, we got to know
Who's responding to whom.
who's providing what service
To what area.
where. And so that's where we are. I mean, at the Glades County meeting, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I thought what I understood, we both had to file that petition. And once we both did, then we would be able to enter the county without being requested.
Right.
That's
It
what I
will,
understood.
Yeah, I
Correct.
think Josh said that. Josh Ryan.
He said everything was already in place, he just needed.
Just needed the agreement is what I was understanding.
Mutual aid agreement.
so we have mutual aid agreements, but talking about automatic dispatching is a little bit different. And so we've got to establish which county is going to provide which service in order to have a proper document to say an automatic. So if Hendry County were to provide the ambulance service, and Glades, as an example, it could look different. I'm just making a hypothetical. And Glades County were to do the fire, then that's one way to do it. If you did it the opposite way, then of course we work with the city of LaBelle, and we have a separate agreement with them. And so we approved the East Fire contract. We updated it tonight on the consent agenda. We look to bring forward the West Fire contract to you soon, but with this automatic deal that we're talking about doing, we want to work out all the details first and incorporate that language in that same document if need be. And so it's a dispatch issue.
Yeah, well, that's what he was saying, though, and what I understood. And what Josh was saying about the fire, pretty much whatever we adopt, the city of LaBelle is going to go along with, is what he said. And the issue, like the ranchettes, let's use the ranchettes for an example. If they need an ambulance, for the ambulance to come from across the river to the ranchettes is 10 minutes. It's 5 minutes for us to send an ambulance there.
That's in place, just, maybe you didn't know that, but in 2000.
Well, they said it was in place, but they said we needed to file a petition, that there was something they had said we had to have, what Josh and actually the
Okay, well,
county manager from Clewiston said as well.
it's in place for EMS.
Just not for fire.
There's a 2000 agreement between Henry County and Glades County for Hendry to provide the ambulance service for Glades Unit 102, the Ranchettes, and Indian Hills. And that's a written agreement that's in place for EMS. That's what's in place now. Now, everything else beyond that is proposed for a change.
Okay. We need to move forward like we talked in the meeting. We spent 45 minutes that day discussing it, and we're 2 weeks out of it now. We should be moving ground on it. So.
Do they call Glades first or Henry first?
Well, the way, and Commissioner Harris, the way I understood it, and I'd like to add on to that question, is right now, dispatch, someone calls 911 in LaBelle. Tell me which side of the river they're on. It goes to our dispatch, and then they then direct it to the according, if it's sheriff's department or fire or ambulance, right?
Right.
That's what the ranchettes would do.
What are we trying to eliminate? I think what we're trying to eliminate is seconds, delaying someone from receiving services, because we gotta qualify, are they in Glades County or in Hendry County, and who's gonna come?
I think one of the understandings they gave was that all of Henry County is out, and they won't be able to accommodate that person because there's no agreement to accommodate them if everybody was out.
I think that was a separate issue.
But that's the
unto itself.
firefighter, so that's what
I
they
think
was
they call
trying
that
to.
code red, is what they called that.
So we have to establish service boundaries.
With the firefighters.
Service boundaries for this automatic,
Right.
right? And so that was our discussion. So we were going to look at, and so we talked about what we already had in place, and then we talked about what we need to incorporate into what we're already doing and establish that service area and incorporate that into the automatic language. And then I think that will do it, but we have to decide who's doing what in
Okay.
order to be able to do that.
So I guess then, just to try to be as diplomatic as I can, 14 days, I don't know how many calls we have, what is your timeline for seeing that occur? And who's going to be
So Amy has been talking with the Glades County staff, and she's meeting with them this week, and then she was going to circle back with us, and then we were going to try to establish some kind of, document to bring back to you. I mean, she met with them that same week, and then we met last week, wasn't it? Yes.
Well, I just, so if I'm understanding you correctly, we're going to have like a three-pronged conversation of service boundary, who's responding to what issue, and that's going to be ironed out, and then we'll have the agreement put into documentation form, and we'll vote up or vote down.
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Okay. I guess I would just ask, Ms. Davis, do you think that, so we're at the end of February tomorrow, basically, do you think that that's doable to have done by the first meeting in April?
I think so, as long as we don't have any major communication. I thought we were going to, when we meet back with Glades, it was just my thought and my goal to have all that done before that meeting and to have it all set before we meet again. I thought that's what we were.
That's in April.
Yes, sir. That's what we were doing.
Yeah, we were supposed to hash things out in April, but from what I was understanding, the agreement was going to be done before that. Before April. So when we come back together, it was just a matter of then of moving forward on location and what we were going to do, so.
Did Glades get funded?
It's not, we don't know yet. It's not time yet
So
to
if they
know.
don't get funded, it'll be an MSBU deal?
Well, it could be. So we have an appropriation request, and then we have an MSBU. They don't have an I don't think they have it. I talked to Amy Friday. They don't have an MSBU. So that was the other thing, too, of our funding structure, their funding structure.
How we're going to carve out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot.
We got a pretty good fund in Northville MSBU.
Yes, sir.
It's not a bridge issue.
The fire, fire MSBU.
Thank you.
And this here's another one been going on almost 3 years, which is not
We're going to make it happen.
No, and the question you just asked, according to the meeting, what Glades County said and what Hendry County said was if for some reason we get shot down this year, then we were going to go ahead and build something.
Yeah, you can't wait.
We weren't going to wait to keep waiting, that's right, yes, sir.
Because we were doing it for the bridge.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Second item I have is about the transportation disadvantage. There's some updated statistics through the first 4 weeks for you as far as ridership in Hendry and Glades County. And I just pointed out in my write-up a little bit about the logo and the idea of using the word stream or some other term if that's not something that everyone likes, just in order to have more of a marketing aspect of it and for it to hopefully use that to make the program more of a success. The CDBG MIT grants, since this was written, we actually received building at LaBelle Elementary School, or a room in LaBelle Elementary School for their.
That don't make any sense.
I don't want to overstep, but I just think we have a nice facility. I think that we're all receptive to it, and, I think we ought to try to offer that.
Reach out to them.
I can reach out
All you got to do is
again.
walk in and sit down.
Yeah, and there's not going to
Right?
Yeah, we did. We used to be on the same night, same building on the same night. So
Same
but they
side of the
switched.
county and-
Yep.
But they-
Just sit down.
Yeah,
I like facilities being used.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, and if you have any other questions on any of the other items.
Let me narrow in on that one then, Ms.
Okay.
Davis. I would request that you reach out to Superintendent Swindle, and then I would challenge each one of us to reach out to Superintendent Swindle and the individual school board members and just ask them.
All you do is walk in, sit down.
Yeah. And then if we could combine dollars and cents to be able to upgrade, this, that would be a double shot. So that's it.
Is the city of Clueston helping out with any of the upgrades at City Hall, or are we going to handle all those?
So that was part of the kind of the conundrum, because it's, and I don't think Brian's here, but it's,
Randy Martin?
well, it's my understanding that the hardware, if you will, it stays, is permanent. So if the school board put their equipment in LaBelle, then we would work with the city of Clueston and talk to them and put some equipment in Clueston. And so it would just make things a lot better. So if in both locations, it's going to cost more money, so.
They're still going to use one in Clueston, right? School board, where they meet now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Moving forward.
We'd love to partner with.
Well, we should. It's all,
save
LaBelle
money.
City, Clueston City, Hendry County, we're all the same thing. All of our taxpayers pay the same. It's all one pot. So the more we can come together and separate and come together, the better. So we'll save money. Okay, it's going to bring us to public comment. Did you have something? If you would, just on the mic, please, sir. Just that way you got it on the record.
Yes, my name is Rolly Gonzalez, out of Montura. Can you get some clarification on that $1.6 million? We need some clarification, because last meeting that we had,
been dumping dirt, trash, and everything else.
Okay, what's your address?
Well, I'd like to know what the code enforcement and the county wants me to do.
How long has this been going on?
It's been going on for a while, because Wanda has it.
Well, how long is a while?
I know it's been going on over a year, because Wanda had a problem with one of my boys for the same stuff. My boy lives on my property now. He's the one that brought the stuff into my property while I was working, when I had a full-time job. I'm disabled now. I'm on very limited income. There's no way I can pay the $15,000 fine.
What's your address?
My address is 393 Perimeter Road.
393, what was that?
Perimeter.
What kind of junk do you have?
Well, my son was messing with cars and pickup trucks and, whatever kind of junk that was given to him that he might be able to make $1 off. And she's accused me of trying to run a business and everything else that I haven't been doing.
We're going to have to look at it and see what the cases are. I mean, we're not going to, we can't comment on something we're not fully educated on. We know we have code enforcement. We do not micromanage. That's the reason we're asking your address. We can actually pull it up and look at it. Everybody's the same throughout the county. I've had folks down where I live, and they're completely upset because they had to clean up their property, and they want to know why they had to clean it up, yet Dudas didn't. So I'm telling you the same thing I tell them. You're going to have to give us time to look at it so we can see the whole story.
I know my property needs to be cleaned up. I am trying to get it cleaned up. Like I said, though, I am disabled. I can only do very little. I don't have money to hire nobody like she wants me to do to come in there and clean the property.
Okay.
So, it's going to be a real slow progress for me to get my property cleaned up, yet I'm in court every month.
So how long would it take you to clean it up?
I have no idea. I mean, my son's got a lot of trash thrown in the yard yet. I got most of the metal out, but I still got some metal I got to get out. A lot of garbage and tires and all I got to get rid of.
Well, can your son help you? Can your son help you clean it up?
Well, I said, even got my son, finally got him started to help clean it up.
Yeah.
But we don't have the money to pay somebody else to come in there and help us clean it up.
Okay.
And he's disabled also, so.
Commissioner, you got anything?
Yeah, I would just say, sir, it sounds like your situation is pretty difficult, but I want you to know that I'm probably one of the main commissioners that constantly is writing the county staff via the administrator to do more in code enforcement. And I want to look you in the eyes, and I want to say to you that, you know, there's 1,000 different reasons from 1,000 different constituents of why they can't get their property out of disarray or out of what we call blight. But the reality is it's extremely unfair to your neighbors. It's extremely unfair to what I refer to as the good actors in the county, that we allow certain constituents, we allow certain properties to go into complete disarray. And so it's staff's jobs to carry out the policies of the county and try to be as uniformed across the board. And I know that it may upset you, it may aggravate you to the depths of your heart because you feel as if you're being picked on, but it sounds to me like you potentially live at one of the properties that is the definition of an eyesore in our county. And we're trying to address this because we've got to make Hendry County be as attractive as we can. And that's not to the new people that are wanting to move in. It's to the people that have called this home for generations now. And I think that we owe it to all of the Hendry Countyans to pick up their game.
Like I said, I am working on getting it cleaned up. It's just gonna take me time because of my situation.
Yes, sir.
But Wanda and Mr. Lapp, every time I go to court, they keep pushing the judge to have me arrested for contempt of court.
Well, what I tell Wanda, just so you know, what I tell Wanda and Mark Lapp and Jennifer Davis is they need to go harder, they need to press the gas faster, they need to get in the far left lane, and they need to do more quicker. And so I hope that doesn't offend you too greatly, but I want to look at you person to person, and I want you to know this is where I stand on this. And I keep challenging this board to do more and more and more.
Well,
We've got to clean up this county. We've got to ask our constituents to do as much as they possibly can.
All right.
Everybody's got to hold that rope together.
I'll tell you just like I've been thinking here. You want to keep pushing it, which is fine. You can have me arrested for contempt of court. That's not going to get my property cleaned up any faster.
Yes, sir.
Now, if it comes right down to it, I'll go home, pack up everything I own, and I'll move out right now.
Yes, sir.
She can deal with the damn trash and all that's left there.
Yes, sir. That may have to be an outcome, you know.
I mean-
I'm trying to learn the foreclosure process, and I do think that there's going to be some instances in this county where the county is going to have to literally take property.
But she even
It's the
said-
only way we're going to be able to deal
But
with it.
she even said in court, it ain't about the money, it ain't about wanting to take my property. But that's what it comes down to.
That's exactly right, sir, and I hope you take that to heart. It's not about taking that's the last thing we want to do.
Well-
But we want to see the properties get cleaned up.
Well-
We owe that to all of the constituents.
When you guys throw $100 a day fine or more on people that don't even have that kind of money, how are we supposed to pay those kind of fines?
It's a very tumultuous
We
situation.
can't do it.
I don't disagree with you. It's almost impossible.
No,
It's
it
almost
is
impossible. Yes, sir. And so I think that that's where we have to enlist the help of other social services and try to engage this conversation from an A to Z fix. But I want you to hear me. I'm going to implore, I'm going to beg, I'm going to plead with our county administrator every time I get the opportunity to enlist staff to engage these properties that are the bad performers. We've got to clean them up. And I know that's a very aggressive statement, and but that's the way I feel about it.
I'm in the process of cleaning the property up, but I cannot get it done as fast as what you want me to do,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair.
or as fast as you want me to do.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
have you owned that property since 2008?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you realize you've had over 20 case violations? Open cases, open and closed throughout that period of time. That's a lot. And like Mr. Turner says, what they're trying to do is clean up the area. Now, I know a lady that's here on Hacienda that was able to get a dumpster company from Okeechobee to bring her a dumpster. All you got to do is put your stuff in it, they'll haul it off, and they'll pay you for some of that scrap. Would that help you out to get that done quicker?
Bigger thing I need is a dumpster to put the trash in.
Well, I'm going to help you out with that. So if you'll give that gentleman behind you with the beard your phone number, I'm going to give you a call. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public like to speak at this time? Okay, business by district. Commissioner Iglesias.
Business by district, okay? No. Shane, Tommy, thank you guys so much for getting the intersections done on 833 and at the end of Flag Hole Road where the farmer's market barbecue guy sets up. It's been needed for a long time, and as soon as I reached out to you guys put pen to paper and got it done. Shane, I know you don't want to hear this, but where are we at on the mailboxes? I know, but I want him to say it.
You don't.
Shane Parker for the record. Okay, I spoke to Ruth Nall. She called me, I want to say it was last week, I don't remember the exact day, talked to her, and she said that her upper level management does not allow them to do maintenance of mailboxes, and I told her, I said, well, I don't understand that. So she sent me an email between her and Juan Mata, and I read that email, didn't have her supervisor's email address, but I told her that I would email her all the pics and definitions of why we think they should do the mailbox repairs. And she sent me a link to a guide that was a guide for installation of new mailboxes, which was dated 2017. So I replied back with several emails, some that I forgot to tell the board that was present were ones in Hooker's Point by Ridgedale Road and Tammy Road. I forgot about those, and there's one on Sherwood.
Those are rough.
They were, and I took pictures and I said, here's the mailboxes. They were installed over 25 years ago. One of them looked like they got blew up with a firecracker bomb. Mr. Ridgedale said they were installed over 25 years ago and that he did not have any agreement with anybody. This UPS put them in the road right away. So there's no active HOA as you claim. So who's responsible for taking care of the safety hazard because there's exposed metal that you could cut yourself on, plus it's an eyesore. And then I sent her pictures and I said, furthermore, it doesn't comply with, this was installed prior to the 2017 guidelines that you're using now for maintaining structures and HOAs. I sent that one off, sent the one for Sherwood off. Then I sent the one for Montour off saying this one was done probably over 25 years ago. It has a sign that Mr. Mata pointed out. I had a picture of that. It said government property. Here it is. Once again, does not comply. The mail lady says that, one mail lady says that you're responsible for maintenance. You say you're not responsible for maintenance. We assume that you are responsible for maintenance because of this. Please advise. And then I called Ms. Nall today to say, did you get all my emails? She said yes. I said, well, please forward those up to your supervisor. We wait a response. And then we'll go from there. I sent information to Mark Lapp this morning about the legal descriptions for Ever High Acres and Montour Ranch Estates so that he can do a legal description or a legal search to find out if there's any easements. So that's all that's been done to date.
Okay, and one last thing.
Yes.
We had talked about trying to put some solar LED lights on the Hendry County signs coming in.
Yes.
Is that an option still?
I haven't had a chance to explore that.
Great, thank you.
Denise Miller, resident of Montour, 615 North Cabbage Palm Street. Also the co-chair of CCOM, Concerned Citizens of Montour. I have spoken already, I believe, to 2 commissioners on the issues with the planning that we're doing for the future of Montour. Le estoy diciendo a ellos que, I'm going to translate. Le estoy diciendo a ellos que he tenido la oportunidad de hablar con 2 comisionados sobre la planificación de Montour. This is the first time that I'm going to speak to all of you, so just to catch you up. I don't know if Mr. Carson or Mr. Iglesias have told you any ideas of what we have discussed. No sé si el señor Iglesias o el señor Carson o el comisionado Carson le ha compartido las ideas o lo que hablamos a los demás. Por eso que le estoy hablando ahora. In general, my conversation that I had with Mr. Carson and also with Mr. Iglesias deals with asking for more time for the planning of Montour, because the main issue, or one of the main issues, that we are not in accord, some residents are not in accord, is the animal issue, how many animals per acre. Okay, coming from 1969, where it was voted on that any amount of animal is correct for Montour, to a limitation of whatever we come up with. Le estoy diciendo que el tema que hablamos fue sobre las limitaciones
Yeah.
que van a tener ahora con la planificación de monturas sobre los animales, que en 1969 los comisionados en ese tiempo hicieron la planificación de montura para tener la cantidad de animales que uno quiera tener, a ahora, en el 2021, escoger un número entre nosotros de qué es el número perfecto o el número que se pueda trabajar con los animales, limitaciones de animales. No, no está hecho, se está discutiendo. Le he pedido a los dos tiempo, que nos den por lo menos un año para planificar. I have told her that what basically we're asking for is time, maybe a year, to sit down and come out, or 6 months, whatever, but not a month, to come out with certain plans. I heard that there are some residents of Montour that have a plan. I have a plan, doesn't mean it's perfect, doesn't mean it's going to work. Le he dicho que hay residentes aquí de Montura que tienen un plan que queremos presentar o discutir con ellos, aunque ninguno va a ser perfecto, pero por lo menos hemos compartido nosotros en qué es lo que se va a hacer en el futuro.
Denise,
Yes.
on the 20th of February, when we have the Montour Land Use Study, that's the time to bring that plan forward, but keep in mind,
I'm not going to bring it up now. I'm just informing the 3 people that I have not spoken to and just giving them what has been done up to today. That's all I would want to say. No vamos a presentar, él dice que podemos presentar el plan ese el sábado, este próximo sábado, no, el 20,
el que sigue.
el que sigue. Si hay alguien con algún plan, alguna idea, ese es el momento de presentarlo. El 20 de este mes, a las 10 de la mañana en el John Boy Auditorium. Yes, but I just wanted to have the courtesy of telling the rest of you that have not heard what we've been doing, talking to, and I say we, Mr. Mata, myself, and other people, just to inform you, okay? Any questions? No? ¿Alguna pregunta?
Just for clarification of the location.
Oh, it's at Montour.
I want to clarify a couple things, is that our next meeting for the land use study is going to be here at the clubhouse. We have flyers that are available in both English and Spanish that are back on the table. That's where our AV crew is. Sure.
Okay, keep in mind now, constituents,
Espérese.
understand.
Ella está diciendo que para la próxima reunión sobre los animales va a ser aquí, no va a ser en John Boy. Me está corrigiendo ella. Y que vamos a tener papeles con información en español e inglés.
Okay, as constituents come, you're going to have 3 minutes to speak. If we're going to be discussing the animal project, we're not going to be making a motion, we're not going to be doing anything on that tonight. So we thank you for the clarification, and we're going to allow people to speak, but you get 3 minutes. So as you come to the microphone, would you please translate for me? The microphone, tell them they have 3 minutes. There's going to be a timer.
Si vienen a hablar aquí al micrófono, van a tener 3 minutos para discutir lo que quiera, 3 minutos, porque no es el momento, como el sábado 20, para entonces discutir el tema en fondo.
All right, thank you.
Aquí, el 20 va a ser aquí, ella acaba de decirlo ahora mismo, aquí va a ser, sí, a las 10 de la mañana. No. He's asking me if you have a plan already, if we're supposed to come in with a plan. As far as I know, you don't have a plan already. We're going to discuss it, but if we have plans, we should bring them in.
It needs to be both. She's going to present, her and her staff are going to present something.
Ella va a presentar lo que ellos tienen como el plan y nosotros vamos a presentar lo que nosotros creemos que debe de ser.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Business by district, Ms. Byrd.
I'm fine, thank you so much.
Mr. Harris.
Are they through the courthouse?
The exterior, Shane, are we done with the punch list? Okay. Final walkthrough is this Friday for the exterior, and it'll be done.
And then what's the next step?
So the next step would be for this board, so on the credit line, we don't have a budgeted amount for the interior of the courthouse unless some of the other projects come in under a cost. So we should be getting the cost for the jail soon, correct, Shane? And once we know what that number is, we're really kind of going to have a better idea of where our dollars and cents are. And once that occurs, then we can talk about whether or not we have money on the credit line. Regardless, we plan on applying for some grants for the interior of the courthouse, and those will be brought to you for approval. And so we haven't done any architectural work. We haven't done really anything, but we know that there's repairs that have to be done. There's been a lot of damage on the interior of the courthouse from the roof leaking and so forth. And so that will be the next phase for the historical courthouse at such time we have the proper funding.
That'll all be on the inside.
Yes, sir.
What about the parking lot?
So the parking lot, we discussed too, that was going to be the last item that we did when we finished all of the courthouse projects.
Okay.
Commissioner Turner?
Just thank you all for allowing us to have this meeting out here. Thank you to staff for putting this together. I'm glad we were able to come out to Montour tonight. I hope that we are able to do this again moving into next winter or the late fall when it's still nice and cool. You know? And then I also want to know if Ms. Bird had any timeline on when we were wanting to meet in Harlem.
No, we're just waiting on them to get finished with the deed. There's some things going on, the two lawyers getting together. But when that happens, then we're going to meet in Harlem with the people that's been coming in for a proposal so they'll know what's going on. So we're just waiting on that. Jennifer?
Were you talking about having a board meeting in Harlem?
Yes, ma'am. I was talking about having a board meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, right now they're working on the floor, so once they get finished, then we can set a date.
Awesome. I'm good to go. Henry County Fair and Livestock Show's going on in Clewiston. Steer shows tonight. Pig shows tomorrow. Everybody and their dog will be there. COVID is not slowing that down at all, and the sale will be on Friday night. So is LaBelle having?
Tomorrow night.
Same thing.
Tomorrow's the hog night.
Tomorrow's hog night, yeah. And then Friday's the sale. So.
Yeah, tonight's hog night, tomorrow night steer night, sale, Friday.
Friday.
It's kind of the same thing again.
10-4.
I've been living in Montura. My name is Eduardo Antunes. I've been living in Montura for the last 10 years. And I'm being questioning myself why we don't get new roads done.
I didn't hear the question.
Let me address that.
I didn't hear the question.
First of all, what's your name and number?
Eduardo Antunes.
The roads are responsibility of Central County. Hendry County is only responsible for Pine Cone of the existing area that is paved and Highway 833. Any other road that pertains to Montura falls under Central County Water Control District.
That's my question. Why we don't get new pavement roads? We pay a lot of taxes. Myself pay $1,200 taxes a year. And we have a lot of properties in Montura.
Yeah.
We paying a lot of taxes. Where that money's going?
Well, that goes to our non-ad valorem. That's going to take care of garbage, mosquito, recreation.
Really, Iglesias,
Fire and EMS.
We're talking, we probably picking up like 2 or 3 grams a year for taxes. I mean, Central County only collect $200 out of an acre, or 200 and something dollars every acre.
220 per acre.
220 for acres. That's not going to be enough money for Central County to handle new roads. I mean, in the last 10 years, I haven't seen not a progress in that. I mean, that's something that I just bring up to you guys to see we can do something about that.
So that's a great point, and as I campaigned, I brought that up to the Central County Board 100 times. Please understand that the 298 that Central County operates under had nothing to do with Hendry County. The developers of Montura, the Pan American Group, if I'm not mistaken, they're the ones that got the legislature is who dictates 298. Is that correct, Mark? So we can't even go to, you guys would have to go to the legislature, and please understand, it's a very difficult process. No one in the legislature wants to bother with them. They're just that complicated. Please understand, it's not the county, it's the developers of Montura that started that back in the 60s.
Okay, I guess we have to find a way to do something. I mean, that's That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just clarify one thing too. I think a good way of looking at it is if this were a giant housing development that has its own HOA, and they're responsible for infrastructure that is within that HOA to a degree. And, you know, to the best of my abilities, I cannot recall a situation where the county has gone into a particular neighborhood that is not a county-owned or county-developed property and has paved a road or done anything along those lines. So it's just, once again, it's that concept of trying to be fair and equitable across the board, and it's very difficult. You know, in Pioneer, we're getting ready to deal with Henry Isles Boulevard in 2022, 2023. You know, Flag Hole, I think it was 2016, we actually did Flag Hole Road, but, you know, it's just like Commissioner Iglesias talked on Pinecone. That goes back to an agreement with the Hilliard family and U.S. Sugar because there was justified wear and tear due to the volume of agricultural trucks and usage that they had on that. So they fronted the money to the county to be able to take over and then made sure that we kept our responsibility for that because it was a main thoroughfare in and out, ingress, egress point. So it's just, it's a very tough nut to crack. I know I've had a handful of constituents that have told me over the years, you know, we turn a blind eye to Montura. I don't want to say that I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that it's very difficult. And I would just ask you also to point very, very close down the road to Flag Hole and look at those main feeders. You know, Pine, Kilpatrick, the Loop, all of that. You know, we haven't done any maintenance to those. Go out to Hooker's Point, look at Geiger, Johnson, Art Lawrence. You know, those roads are all in very bad shape. And it's just, you know, those are roads that are 100% county owned and operated. And so it's, you know, it's one of those things where we live in a rural community, and I hate to say it like this because it comes across as very coarse, but you kind of understand what you're moving to when you move to it, and it's difficult when you come from a municipality where they do have resources that are more grand and large on a scale. So just take that into consideration. So.
Again, thank you, staff, for making this meeting happen. Thank you for everyone for being here tonight. We do it again. We apologize for the inconvenience of those of you that maybe had a language barrier. Hopefully in the future, you know, we'll be able to address that in a different manner. So thank you all for coming out. Go home safely. The meeting is adjourned.